Alright, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Thousands of Chinese Migrants Arrested at the US Border. Guys, let's go and check it out immediately. And also, guys, if you would like to see more of this type of thing, or if you want to stay up to date with kind of what's going on, check out the link in the description, guys. NYC Uncovered. Alright? Let's check it out.
In 2023, over 37,000 people from China were caught sneaking across the US border, a whopping 10 times more than the year before.
Migrants from China are now the fastest growing group of people entering the United States illegally.
Yeah, I would definitely say China and West Africa.
China are now the fastest growing group of people entering the United States illegally.
Venezuela.
We're looking live at the Fox News flight team over Chinese migrants trying to cross the southern border illegally.
The Chinese migration is being fueled by Chinese social media apps like WeChat that instruct migrants on how to make the trip.
It's double the total for the whole last decade. This year, the number is already alarming. But what is driving them to flock to the United States?
Oh, it's hard to live there.
For years, Chinese
But that's your country, though.
people have traveled to the
Like, stay and make it better.
United States, looking for better opportunities and freedom. But recently, more Chinese migrants are coming through South America and the U.S. southern border. Two main reasons are behind this increase. Initially, many Chinese used to come to the U.S. on student or skilled worker visas. But because of travel restrictions during the pandemic, it became harder. Also, getting immigrant visas is tough for those without family ties or specific job skills. Tourist visas need an interview at a U.S. consulate to prove they'll go back to China.
In 2016, the U.S. granted 2.2 million temporary visas to Chinese nationals.
Since legal ways are challenging, social media now offers other options for Chinese who urgently want to move. Apps like Douyin and TikTok provide tips on visa-free travel spots and crossing borders, even sharing details about smugglers. Using virtual private networks, immigrants access information from blocked U.S. apps. This helps them plan their journey and connect with others who share their goals.
Oh, you learned on TikTok. Yeah.
Encouraged by social media,
Can we just ban TikTok now, guys? I'm sorry. I'm absolutely in the camp of getting rid of this application. I understand it has nothing to do with banning the concept of their speech over there, even though I generally don't really like anything that they are generally promote on TikTok. But if we could just get rid of it completely from our country, and the fact that this is happening on TikTok, maybe this will help.
Thousands of Chinese now fly to Ecuador. From there, they travel by land to the U.S.-Mexican border, often crossing the dangerous Darien Gap, a route used by migrants worldwide.
One is the overland route from Ecuador, because they're visa-free in Ecuador, and then they basically cross all the borders and everything by busing and all that, all the way up here.
In 2022, Ecuador saw around 13,000 Chinese visitors, but by the first 11 months of 2023, that number surged to over 45,000. What's interesting is that Ecuador doesn't ask for visas from Chinese citizens. This increase has led to a whole new set of services for these travelers. From picking them up at the airport to arranging their stays at hostels run by Chinese, and even helping plan their journey north, businesses are cashing in, as CNN discovered. For instance, at a bus station, there's a ticket agent with a sign in Chinese for trips to the Colombian border. Even at local hospitals, where vaccines are recommended for the dangerous trek through the jungle, there are forms translated into Chinese. Around the city, especially near the central business district, more and more businesses are popping up to cater to these travelers.
So basically what I'm taking from this is that every single nation, for some reason, not every single nation, but all of these nations are, for the most part, preying on us. Like they have businesses and services set up to explicitly get people to our border. Come on, bro.
Long Quanwei, a travel agent from China who moved to Quito 5 years ago, shared this insight with CNN recently. These businesses offer everything from essential gear for the journey north to accommodation, food, and a chance to connect with fellow travelers and plan onward routes, according to Long. Imagine staying at one of these hostels for just $20 a night, with meals included, and finding printed Chinese language maps detailing every step of the journey. The owner estimates there are about 100 such businesses like hers, catering to Chinese travelers preparing to head north. The online posts they follow do not only discuss crossing the Darien Gap, but also suggest the best border crossing points. Many Chinese asylum seekers now head to Mexico's Baja California to cross near San Diego. While the recent surge in social media use are new, Chinese migration through the southern border isn't. It's a trend that dates back, often involving smugglers.
And there was people everywhere. They were jumping, they were doing everything they could to get off that boat.
We have the strongest economy in the world.
Reports from journalists at the border suggest that most Chinese migrants hail from the middle class, unable to rely on education or job opportunities for entry, but with enough resources to travel abroad. Many are small business owners who suffered losses due to China's stringent COVID policies. These migrants represent diverse demographics, including women, men, and children, all seeking better opportunities outside their homeland.
Diverse demographics. Those are the three.
Teaching? You're a teacher? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Tracing this issue to some years ago, you will find out that between 1882 and 1943, the United States stopped all immigration from China for men and most women. This was because of fears about Chinese culture and competition for jobs. It made Chinese people the first to come to the U.S. illegally. With legal ways to enter blocked, some Chinese people went through Mexico to get to the U.S. Some pretended to be Mexican workers, while others used fake identities or documents from Chinese with permission to enter, like citizens. Usually it was the middle and working class Chinese who came illegally. Richer and educated ones could come legally as students or merchants, which were exceptions to the law. Even though the exclusion laws ended in 1943, limits on Asian immigration lasted until 1965. New rules for visas favored skilled workers and family reunification. Also, changes in China's policies helped more Chinese come legally in the 1980s and 1990s. But some Chinese still came illegally, especially those without education or family ties for visas. They relied on snakeheads, who helped them take dangerous routes. One tragic example was in 1993, when the Golden Venture ship sank near New York. 10 Chinese migrants drowned, and the people smuggling them were arrested. Right now, around 100,000 out of 1.3 million people in America that have been told to leave are from China. But when they're asked to go back, many of them still stay in the United States because China won't take them back. So they're stuck in between.
Didn't know that. Guys, I think this is probably the best one of these that we've seen here, because definitely a lot of brand new insight. I want to go ahead and point out also, generally whenever we hear anything about migrants or the migrant crisis that's happening currently in the United States of America, it's mostly South Americans, like legitimately born, bred South Americans. And we normally don't hear a lot about other nations, but as we've kind of been digging into this a little bit recently, I'm starting to see like a lot of like Chinese along with West Africans. But I'm glad that we're kind of getting more of this. We do know that also Europeans do overstay. Keep this in mind here. It is not just like South Americans, Asians, and Africans. It's not just that. It is in fact also Europeans who overstay visas and just do the same exact thing, but they just flew here.
If
Same
someone's
exact thing, no difference.
not granted asylum here, will China then say, okay, yes, we'll take them back?
I haven't seen that happen, really. I think even back to 2008, a lot of the Chinese nationals that had failed asylum cases weren't able to get passports.
So China says it's America's fault for encouraging Chinese people to leave by giving them asylum. However, America points fingers at China, saying its strict rules and tough deportation process make it hard to send people back. According to the Department of Justice, 55% of Chinese migrants received refuge last year, while 14% of migrants from other countries did.
Oh, so they come here, and they know that America's can't really send them back anywhere. So we're just stuck for the most part. So where do the other 45% of the Chinese migrants go once they are declined asylum or refuge? Where do they go? I mean, they're obviously now stateless. Who takes stateless people?
How much property do you have here?
Amidst this tough crisis, our hearts go out to Schuster, a 75-year-old retired man. He has a piece of land close to the border gap, where migrants gather, waiting for Border Patrol. His land, spanning 17 acres, sits just above the border fence, a short distance from Jacumba Hot Springs, California.
Tonight, migrants are waiting out in Jacumba, hoping to enter the U.S.
Schuster's journey to the U.S. started from Yugoslavia. He describes his coming into the United States as entering through the front door and knocking on the United States door, never breaking in.
And I knock on this door. I done bust the door down to come over here.
Yeah, the same thing with my wife and my kid. So my wife was born in Spain. I fully immigrated into Spain. And she also immigrated to the United States of America, right? I get it, it's super expensive and it's super long. I understand. And if she wasn't my actual wife, then the time would have been probably like 20 years, right? But still, there is a way to do this legally. It takes a very long time. We need to probably rework it in order for it to make more sense, specifically in these times. But I guess that's just all types of lobbies who are not allowing that to be, just a little bit more seamless. It's a little bit more seamless, bro.
You came through the front door.
I came through the front door.
He has been dealing with a lot of migrants coming onto his land lately, and it's been really frustrating for him. He feels like the authorities aren't doing much to help out. When these migrants show up, they bring their suitcases along. It all started back in May 2023, when migrants began arriving on his property. He noticed some smoke coming from his land one day and went to check it out. Turns out, the migrants were burning trees to keep warm while they waited for the Border Patrol to come and pick them up. Sometimes they wait for just a few hours, but other times, it can take days. A few months earlier, he tried talking to the migrants and asking them to stop burning his trees. But instead of listening, they ended up surrounding him.
Ma'am, I actually found this little pocket knife right over here, so we don't know what's going on out here. But
feeling threatened, he decided to go back home and grab his gun.
Why would you walk outside to these people without your gun in the first place?
Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse when he fired a shot into the air and ended
a warning shot?
Ended up getting arrested.
Right, that's why. No warning shots, bro. Do not fire your gun under any circumstance unless you're going to use it. Like, actually use it to end something. All right? Don't use it to scare people.
I got my gun and I shoot in the air, they arrest me.
They arrested you?
Yeah,
of course they arrested you.
Schuster didn't face charges, yet authorities took away his gun. Since then, Schuster revealed about 3,000 migrants pass through the gap every week. His land is now strewn with the dirt and tents left by these migrants.
Yeah, I'd move.
Schuster has notified officials about the hole and has requested repairs. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, their agents lack the power to prevent people from using openings like the one near Schuster's property.
Wow.
Agents can only apprehend migrants after they've entered unlawfully. As for sealing the gap, the agency states it's a priority, but dependent on funding from Congress. After arriving, migrants are often taken to a detention center near San Diego, where they undergo background checks and some are interviewed. Within about 3 days, they are released into the United States to start the asylum process. Jacqueline Arellano, who has volunteered on the border for 8 years, provides humanitarian aid to migrants. Being fluent in Spanish has been crucial for her work, but she has encountered situations where she has had to communicate with Chinese migrants using translation apps. When questioned about why migrants are not getting picked up at the port of entry, Jacqueline explained that it would be safer and more efficient, something many migrants would prefer. However, there are obstacles preventing asylum seekers from seeking asylum at ports of entry. One such obstacle is the CBP-1 app, which asylum seekers are supposed to use to schedule appointments to enter the U.S. through legal border crossings. Unfortunately, the app frequently experiences glitches.
Of course.
The system is glitchy.
Oh, yeah, and it gets stuck, right?
So is this a shortcut?
It's really like the only one that they have. I don't even know that they would consider it a shortcut.
Now,
that's fair.
There's another side of this migration that has been raising a lot.
Like, you already know, like, because the government did it, it's going to be completely underfunded. And the actual website itself is going to be absolute trash. And if you would realize how many people that would be probably trying to use the app to set up an appointment, that makes all the sense in the world that it doesn't work. They don't want it to work.
A lot of concerns. It has both the people and the President of the United States worried.
This morning, Necoclí, Colombia is no longer a tourist town.
In Necoclí, a coastal town near Panama, observers have noticed a peculiar group of middle-aged travelers. They seem prepared for a trek, sporting hats and carrying tents and walking poles. But there's a twist. Many are always spotted wearing lightweight Crocs and their backpacks wrapped in plastic. Nakakli marks the starting point for crossing the Darien Gap. In 2023, over 500,000 migrants made this perilous trek. Surprisingly, around 25,000 of them were Chinese, ranking them fourth in nationality, the largest from outside the Americas. Unlike Venezuelans and Haitians, who typically opt for basic routes, Chinese migrants often choose VIP paths through the jungle, guided by members of Colombia's Gulf Clan, a major drug cartel. These routes, though pricier, are faster and less demanding, involving boat rides, hikes, and sometimes horseback journeys along the coast.
Vacation.
Nakakli, traffickers revealed to Al Jazeera that while cheaper Darien crossings cost about $350, more direct routes along the Panamanian coast, ending at migrant reception centers, cost $850. This raises questions. Is there more to this migration than meets the eye?
Sounds like it.
China's foreign minister has warned that there will be, quote, confrontation and conflict between China and the U.S.
China's defense ministry has urged the Asia-Pacific region to be on high alert. This as the U.S. has ramped up military deployment in the region and plans to revive a Pacific airfield that was used to launch atom bombs.
Between 2018 and 2023, the tension between the United States and China got worse. They argued a lot about trade, got hit by a pandemic, competed in technology, and had more tension over places like the South China Sea and Taiwan. They also disagreed on how to deal with conflicts like Russia and Ukraine. This made people think they might completely separate their economies and even fight each other.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, China is part of the BRICS nations. The plan is for all of these BRICS nations, referring to Brazil, Russia, India, China, along with South Africa. All these nations want to completely back off of the U.S. dollar because imagine with what the U.S. did to Russia in terms of not allowing them to basically utilize the U.S. dollar. Right? By doing that in itself, all these other nations are scared to death now. They're like, wait a second, so you're going to weaponize the U.S. dollar? If that's the case, we'll back out of the U.S. dollar, then move over to our own currency called the BRICS currency. And basically decentralize it, make it some type of crypto. Guys, so this is why this makes all the sense in the world. If China is angry, if they're saying China is angry, China is in fact angry, along with the total 5 nations that I just spoke about.
But in November 2023, there was a meeting between President Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping. They met near San Francisco before the APEC Economic Leaders Week. This meeting was the end of a whole year of talking. The two sides agreed on some important things about the economy and safety. They also wanted to show that they could handle their differences without fighting. So now, it's not as likely that things will get really, really bad. There are also some things keeping them from getting worse, even though it's unlikely they'll suddenly become best friends. But they need to keep talking and be lucky to avoid more problems in 2024. So maybe these migrants do not truly have other motives like some people think. Who knows, they may truly be out here for freedom and good jobs like they say. What do you think?
Most likely. I mean, when it comes down to this here, again, generally I think the overwhelming majority of people are trying to escape their countries that have failed. That's it. Failed economies, they're full of cartels. They're just trying to escape that. I think the overwhelming majority. Then there's a subsection of that overwhelming majority that's absolutely the ones who are causing the people to leave in the first place. They're also coming. And they're hiding within the midst of the people that are actually just trying to get some type of help so they can live another generation. I understand it. I understand the humanitarian aspect of what's happening here. But guys, the fact that they just said here at the end that the U.S. government, along with the Chinese government, are now in talks. They're absolutely in talks consistently daily. The U.S. does not want China to get off of the U.S. dollar. Keep in mind, guys, the BRICS currency is going to fail. They are backing it off of tangible assets. The U.S. dollar is a fiat currency versus the BRICS currency, which is going to be based off of some type of precious mineral or stone. These things are actually tangible. Right? This is the reason why gold prices have shot up completely, because all of these nations are currently buying as much gold as they can put their hands on so they can strengthen this currency. But the problem is with a lot of these nations that are kind of entering into this BRICS currency pact, there's a lot of corruption. All right. Not saying that the United States government is not corrupt. I am not saying that at all. But I think that some of these nations are a little bit more, bro. How has the ruler of Russia, I'm not going to say his name because YouTube will flag this video, but how can the leader of Russia be the leader of Russia for so long? Help me out. Help me understand that. I don't understand. I personally don't get it. So everyone you run against loses? Is that how that works? That's weird. Either way. And the same thing with a lot of these other nations, bro. All right. These are not like the freest places in history. They're not known for it. So how do you think you're going to be able to run a currency that other people care about? But all right, bro, do your thing. Be happy, right? If you're that afraid, well, I guess I would be too, though. The U.S. government, in fact, weaponized the U.S. dollar for the first time, like against a major nation. Ooh, we should have did that, bro. Right? We could have done anything else. Right, but just do not allow our U.S. currency, like specifically the fact that everyone backs their currency off of our currency. Don't use our currency as a weapon. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.